Julia. Tanya.
Chris.
Maureen.
Bobby.
Jane.
David.
Andy. Ross.
Tudor.
Ding.
And Bob.
Okay. Well, what we talk about is what in Hindu, as soon as they call it Veda, Advaita meaning non-duality. They try to describe non-duality by saying it's one without a second, not two, or nothing other than one. And means that, hi Michael, everything is that. So I can't teach you anything, can't tell you anything. All I can do is point toward and ask you to look to where we're pointing to see for yourself. Because no matter what you might believe, nobody can teach you anything, nobody can tell you anything. Because when you look at it, into it, all these body minds are the one essence, patterning, shaping, forming. It's all the one essence, patterning, shaping, forming, experiencing and expressing as everything. So you can only be that. And that's what they call the great mantra. I am that. And innately you already know that. Because you say, that's the chair I'm sitting in, that's the carpet on the floor, that's the space in the room, that's the walls, outside that's the trees, that's the flowers. Everything is that which we put labels on. And that meaning it's one without a second, not two. And they describe it as Sat, Chit, Ananda, Nama, Rupa. They're the five factors. Sat is existence, Chit is conscious, Ananda is loving to be, Nama is the name we've been given, Rupa is the body, the name and form. And they tell you that name and form, body, mind, are Maya. They're illusion. And they call it a phenomenal manifestation. And the definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. So all this manifestation is appearance only. It's only seemingly so. Not that way I use it. I say it, I'm not speaking to anybody. I'm not speaking to any mind. I'm not speaking to the body-mind conceptual idea you have about it. I'm speaking to that I am, to that sense of presence that translates and expresses through the mind as the thought I am. Just to this and nothing else. So it needs to be looked into and investigated to see for yourself. And they tell you that the false cannot stand up to investigation. And that's a fact too, because there's so many things out there you've believed to be so, and when you've investigated, they've fallen apart under the investigation. If you go down to the ocean, and I'll say, get me a bucket of blue water out of the sea, what would you say to me? You'd say, don't be an idiot. Don't be stupid. Because you know that the sea's not blue. Yet it appears to be blue, but you've investigated and see it for what it is. And that was the same as when people stood at the seashore years ago and they looked out where the sea and the sky met. It looked like the edge of the earth. And people were told, don't go out there, you'll fall off the edge of the earth. And people believed it. But who would believe it in this day and age? Nobody. Because it's been investigated and seen through. The blue sky, go 30,000 feet up in the plane, there's no blueness coming into the plane, it's not blue. Look out there and the blueness is always further out, it's only appearing to be. The colours in a rainbow, seemingly colours in the sky. When that's investigated, it's only the sun shining through the mist and forms a background of colours and the clouds and the sky. I've got a crystal in that window over there. When the sun moves around there of an afternoon, on this wall it breaks up into colours. I try and grab a colour off the wall. You can't, because there's nothing there. Go and look in the crystal. There's no colours in the crystal. So when you investigate these things, they're not how they seem to be. And when we look at this concept or idea we've got as the person. Now, when I said Satchitananda Nama Rupa, investigated that. Any one of you who is not existing right now. You'll say, no, I'm existing. Anyone who's not conscious or is unaware right now. No, I'm not unaware, I'm not unconscious. And anyone who has not happened to be. You'll say, no, I'm happy to be. I don't want to be dead right now, so I'm happy to be. So that's Satchitananda Nama Rupa, that's what it is. And you are that already. Isn't it so? So you see that the search itself, the believed in search, becomes the problem. Because you're trying to become something that you already are. And it won't work. It can't work. So it needs to be investigated and seen. But the idea that you are this person, this separate entity, where does that word person come from? It comes from the Latin persona, the mask. So that means we believe we are a person. We take ourselves to be this conceptual image, a mask of concepts which are hiding our true nature. And they tell you everything is already that, and we've got these conceptual images. And they call it a cognising emptiness. And we think we cognise the emptiness. We don't. The emptiness has that capacity of cognising. That pattern, shape and form we call you, has had that capacity of cognising or knowing. And the Buddha told you for about 1,000 years ago or somewhere it was, might have been a couple of thousand, whenever, who cares? Take it away the thought. He told you that emptiness is form. And then he turned around the other way and form is emptiness. So you and I and everything else in this manifestation are forms. And so we are emptiness, actually emptiness, appearing to be something substantial, solid and real. When did it all come about? Came about with the learning of words. How many words were you born with? Can you remember your birth? You can't. People say they can remember their birth, but how can you remember it when you had no words? How could you say I was born without a word? You couldn't. So with the seeming birth, after about a couple of years, 2.5, somewhere around that age, with the capacity of reasoning, we learnt words from our parents. Our parents fussing around us, told you little Billy, or little Johnny, or Jean, or whatever your name might be. And you learnt other words, fussing around them. You learnt words like I and me, And naturally you said, learnt I am Jean. Somebody asks you who you are, you'll say, I am Jean. Or I am Billy, or Bob, or whatever your name might be. So we've taken ourselves away from the actual reality that we are into the conceptual image. Believed in it, and in that belief, that's another thing we have a look at. We've got all these beliefs, words and beliefs and concepts, ideas, images. A belief is not the actual. And the definition of belief is an unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. It means we haven't reasoned it out, we haven't worked it out. And when you look at it really look at it, you can't work it out in the mind. An unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. Acceptance of an alleged fact. An alleged fact, not the true fact, but an alleged fact, without positive knowledge or proof. So when you say, I am Bob or I am Billy, that's what we've taken ourselves to believe, this person, this seeming conceptual image. But the person is not the reality. So with this personal idea and all these words we've learnt in, and realise that every word you've ever spoken or likely to speak has been picked up along the way, been learnt or acquired. And you've got to look at these words and see that the words are not the real. Take the word water. Can you drink the word? You can't. Take the word fire. Can you cook with it? Can you heat yourself with it? Can you burn your mouth with it? You can't. So what's this word I or me? Well, naturally we take it to be, without investigation, this person, this body, mind. This is I or this is me. But the word's not the real. The description is not the described. The map's not the territory. So these words are not real, they're not the actual. But yet we've taken on all these conceptual images and living through and by them. And so we've taken ourselves to be this person, this separate entity, this individual. And when the capacity of reasoning starts, when it's about 2.5, with this capacity of reasoning we start to learn words, and we recognise it, or believe that I am me. We look out there and say, that's not me, or that's not I, that doesn't fit the I or me, so that's not me, it's not I. So what have we done? We've set up a sense of separation from all this things around us. If that's not me, it's not or I, that must be something other than I. And so we moved away from the absolute into the relative. If there's me and other, what are we doing? That's two. It's not one without a second. It's not the individual natural essence that you are. And with that sense of separation comes all your psychological problems: fear, anxiety, stress, guilt, shame, remorse, jealousy, envy. Because little Johnny looking out there and saying, that doesn't fit me, he doesn't know what it is. So he's a bit anxious about it, a bit fearful about it. Can do things to him. And so this continues. And we've got all these dualistic concepts or ideas. And Shakespeare told you 400 years ago that nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And what's the way you think? You're always thinking dualistically. If you're not in the past, which is memory, it's the future, which is then imagination, anticipation. Within that range, it's good, bad, pleasant, painful, happy, sad, loving, hating, positive, negative. Or this, that, or whatever, how, why, thin, thick. Watch your mind and see how it functions. Test it out for yourself. And realise it's doing this, functioning in this way. But then we take on all this psychological suffering, and what happens then? Then we believe that there's something greater than ourselves, a power greater than ourselves, a higher power, which we get attuned and read into it, will relieve us of all these burdens. They call it God. And I don't use the term God here, because all these great traditions that believe in God have a different concept about what they believe God to be. And so we get locked into these conceptual ideas and images, what it is. I use the term intelligence energy, which is the godliness of you, if you like. When I'm talking about intelligence, I'm not talking about your intellects, because there are different degrees of intellect in this room. Some of you are a lot smarter than this pattern will happen ever likely to be, and some mightn't be so smart. All different patterns, shapes and forms with that intelligence. I'm talking about the same intelligence. It's not your intellect. The same intelligence that's rolling the earth around the sun, that the earth is rolling around the sun and doing what it's doing. It's amazing intelligence that's allowing it to happen. The seasons are coming and go, the tides are coming in and out. Seasons to come, I've said the seasons or whatever it is, it's all vibrating dualistic all the time. But it's that same intelligence rolling the earth around the sun is breathing you right now. It's beating your heart. It's growing your hair in your fingernails. It's digesting your food. All naturally, spontaneously and effortlessly. But we think, because things are not going so well, all these conceptual thoughts and ideas are arising, it's me is not this or not that. We got this conceptual image about it, and so we become fearful and anxious and unhappy. Have a look at how that functions in your life. Well, something comes up and you like it, a good thought. But when you look at it before you start to do that, ask yourself right now and have a look, and a lot of you have seen it, what's your next thought going to be? And you'll say, I don't know. And you don't know what your next, but thoughts come up. And you say, I think. As soon as you say, I think, what have you done? You formed a thinker, a subject. And this thinker is thinking thoughts. And what are the thoughts? Thoughts become the objects. So the thinker and the thought are subject-object. Dualism again. But can the thought, I think, actually think? When you look into it, you see the thought, I think, can't think a thought. Can't think itself, it comes up. So the thought, the thinker becomes the subject and the thought becomes the object, dualism. So they're taking place, the thinking is the actual. And the same applies to the seeing. Does your eye tell you I see? You're seeing right now, and the thought I see comes up. Your eye's not saying, look at this, Bob, look at that. Your eye can't say anything at all. It can't tell you, see. But the seeing's happening through the eye. And it's the thought I see, the subject, is taken on board, and I see the chair, the table, becomes the object. So, the functioning, the seeing and the hearing, tasting, the touching, smelling, the feeling, the experiencing, and experience are all dualism. But there's seeing, there's hearing, there's tasting, there's touching, there's smelling, there's thinking. The eye energy on it to something that's happening in this moment. And it comes up spontaneously and naturally, because you don't know what your next thought was going to be. The thought has arisen, so the seeing is happening, so the hearing is happening. How is this working in your life? Now we've taken on this belief that I see, I hear, I think, I'm unhappy, I'm fearful, all relating to this believed in me, this conceptual image. Now how does this function in your body? Well, something comes up, and I like it. A thought comes up, an idea, well, this is good, or something pleasant. And we won't like the good things, and we don't want them to go. And what we don't realise is that everything is transient in this manifestation. It's all constantly changing. It's spontaneous. It's got no duration. When you investigate time and have a look at that, you'll see it's so. Time is a concept, a mental concept. It's transient. When is now beginning? It's beginning right now. When's it ending? Right now. You can't live yesterday and you can't live tomorrow. The actual living is this presence awareness that's happening right now. So we've got this dualistic aspect. If something comes up and I like it, and we don't want it to go, not realising it's transient, it's going to change, and it's something we really love, we don't want to go, so what do? We try to keep it there. We resist it from going. Trying to keep it there, resistance is conflict. If you're resisting anything, you're in conflict with it. And then this conflict, it makes you uneasy because you're not understanding it. And the uneasy comes the fear, the anxiety, the stress, the guilt, the shame, the unhappiness, the depression. All these psychological suffering comes about from this resistance. And Wei Wu Wei told you, a Zen monk, I think years and years ago, he says, why are you unhappy? Because everything you say and everything you think and everything you do is for yourself. And he says there isn't one. There is no personal self. There's the one self, and as I tell you in all the scriptures, there's only the Atman self, not a personal self. So we're relating to this personal self and become fearful, anxious, depressed, guilty, shameful, unhappy. Something comes up and you don't like. So you can't realise that the things you like are going to change. We fixate on it. Now something comes up that you don't like. And you don't want this one. This is a bad thought. I shouldn't be thinking this. This is wrong. What's happening? So what do? We resist it again, trying to force it out. And again, conflict. And again, anxiety, stress, guilty, all these things come up. When that resistance, all the conflict. And it's only look at it all and see all this psychological suffering that conflict brings up, the uneasiness, the dis-ease. Look at it. See, it's all vibrating in the opposites. It's good and bad, pleasant, painful thing. It's all believed in by this me. So all this psychological suffering believed in me. It's only me that can be anxious. Only me that can be fearful. Only me that can be guilty or just jealous, envy. Me is the cause of all this psychological suffering. And they are the effects of the cause, me. Now, that's all that so-called karma is. Cause and effect. So me is the cause, and the effects are the fear, the anxiety, all this psychological suffering. What happens, and you've asked yourself the simple question, can there be an effect if it's not related to a cause? Well, you don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to work that out. If you're not relating to a cause, what can be affected? So this also so-called karma, you can be rid of your karma by looking into your true nature and seeing that me is the cause of it all, and the effects are so-and-so, and if I'm not relating it to a cause, there can't be an effect. So that's what we need to do. Are you this body, mind? Are you this person? Innately you already know you're not, because you say my body. You say my car, my house, my coat, my hat. You know damn well you're not the car, the coat, the house or the cat. So, maybe you're not the body either, if you look along those lines, when you're saying my body. Well, have a look, investigate that. What's this body made up of? When you investigate the body, you'll see it's made up of elements: air, earth, fire, water, space. Just like the elements around you right now, the air that you're breathing, the earth you're standing on, the fire, the body temperature, and the space. That's what this body's made up of. So you are that already. Are you the mind? And you say, my mind. Well, show me a mind if you think you can find a mind. You're saying my mind. Well, what is it? And when you look into investigate, you see there's no such thing as mind apart from thought. Now, if mind is thought, and I believe myself to be the mind, I'd be concerned with the thinking. But yet, I'd be frightened to go to sleep, wouldn't I? Because if I believe myself in this thought-up entity, without a thought, that'd be the end of me. But I gladly give it up when I go to sleep at night. So I know I'm not the thought. And what is mind? Like it's thought. Well, what's thought? Thought is sound, noise, word, vibration, a movement of energy. Just the same as the body can be broken down into vibrating pattern of energy, so can the mind. So that is all there is. Still all that oneness when you look into it. All that absoluteness. Now where did this, you think you are this body, when did you begin? You'll say, I began at birth. But can anybody remember your birth? You realise you can't remember your birth. And that's understandable. Why can't you remember your birth? Because you had no words. How could you say, I was born, if you didn't have any words to know that? You can say, I was born now, but you don't know anything about your birth. And how did you begin in the first place? Well, go back as far as your father and your mother. That animating life essence that was your father, in that vibrating intelligence energy, through the food he's eating and the prana, the breathing he's taking, enabled in that pattern a little microscopic particle called a sperm to form. You can't see it with your naked eye. But that sperm is suffused with intelligence energy. It knows what to do. And the same in the mother. That animating life essence in your mother formed an egg or an ovum. And that egg and ovum knows what to do. It attaches itself to the wall of the uterus. And the sperm swam to the ovum. Showing they weren't just dull blobs of glue. They were knowing what to do. They were suffused with that intelligence. And when the sperm swam to the ovum, it penetrated the ovum, what happens? The genes and that in the body of the mother and the breathing and all the rest of it and the things going on, doubled that cell and doubled it again and formed the little embryo, the little fetus, which is what you are today. What were you doing about it then to grow it? And what are you doing about it now to grow it? It's growing by itself. Cells are dying in it right now. It's transient. Thousands of them. And being replaced. And yet we take on this idea that I am this person, I am this body, when they tell you in the scriptures again that it is
non-conceptual, ever fresh, presence awareness.
Pardon?
Non-conceptual, ever fresh, presence awareness.
Exactly what just came up.
Hmm?
The silence,
Yeah.
stillness,
Yes.
the space.
Dropped into it.
Oh, you did, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, what was I up to?
They tell you in the scripture.
Yeah. That it's non-conceptual awareness.
Yes.
Just this, nothing else. That's how the Buddha puts it. Awareness without these concepts. Now, that's what needs to happen. What are we doing? We're conceptualising all the time, thinking this, thinking that. It's going on all the time. And we're cluttered up in the mind with concepts. But I use the analogy of the clouds in the sky. Go outside on a cloudy day, would you say the sun's not in the sky? No, because if it's been investigated, and you know the sun never leaves the sky. See, the false again cannot stand up to investigation. But when you ask yourself, what forms the clouds? And you realise the sun itself forms the cloud. Now the sun doesn't know anything about the cloud, but the radiance of the sun warms the water, which has been condensed by the radiance and condenses the water, and the water rises and cools down and forms a cloud. And that cloud will cool down or the wind will blow it away, or it'll come down as rain. And that rain will fall into the rivers and go back into the ocean again eventually. But it comes down as rain, and there are less clouds in the sky. When there's less clouds in the sky, when the cloud's blown away and it's clear sky, what's there? There's more radiance, more warmth, and the same applies here. Much clearer clarity. When there are less thoughts in your head, there's more clarity there. There's more room for the affection, love, the joyousness, the sense of well-being, being well, nothing wrong. And you're not locking into all these conceptual ideas. There's less room for the fear, the anxiety, the stress, the guilt, the shame and remorse. So you can be rid of a lot of this psychological suffering and rest, let it rest in its uncontrived singularity, its true nature. And there's nothing wrong anymore, as Nisargadatta puts it. And he tells you that nothing can trouble you except in your own imagination. Break that word imagination down to imagine, and realise that's what we're doing all the time. We're creating these mental images like clouds, obscuring the sun's shine of the spirit, the life essence that you are. It's obscured by clouds of thoughts, concepts, ideas. And the sad thing is, we think we can work it out in the mind with these concepts and ideas, the very things that are obscuring it. That's why they call it ignorance in the scriptures. Not that we're dull or stupid, which we take it to mean, but we are ignoring our true nature. We're ignoring our reality. That pure intelligence entity, the fact of being, and focusing into this conceptual image, trying to get it to become something with it. A conceptual image, a body, Satchit Ananda, being, knowing and loving. Are you being right now? You call yourself a human being. Put the label on it, you call God the Supreme Being. Take away the label human, take away the label supreme. Try and separate the beingness without the label. And you can just say, well, no, you can't say, I am not, so I must be. And being is not becoming. And it never will become. It can't, because becoming implies a future time. And it's timeless. So I think we're going to become something, we're on this so-called path, it's not going to happen. What's happened is less clouds in the sky, and recognise your true nature, and you realise that sunlight of the spirit is already shining fresh and new and absolute in you right now, and you are that. So that's what we're talking about, anyway. I could ramble on and but it's time for you all to have a say. And there's people here that know it, people here have had taste of it, and people here, if you've got taste, if you've got any questions, don't hesitate to ask them. Nobody's going to eat you alive or jump on you. If they do, it's something wrong. And other people that know it, and they can put it in a different way to me, to this pattern, and you might hear it, might resonate, but what resonates with you means it's already recognised, it's already known. And a lot of it does resonate because innately you would already know this. But we've got lost into the conceptual imaging over the way, and the time and the space, but realise it's all the one essence, patterning, shaping, forming, experiencing, expressing as everything. So what's in cat, away you go.
So welcome again everyone, and welcome. We have 20 plus people online with us who usually ask questions and participate in the meetings, but today we only have welcome messages, few hearts, and Tass just says you are beautiful, Bob, and that's it. So the mic is in your hands. You're going to open it up, share whatever moved you, whatever you maybe heard profoundly when Bob was speaking, or something that didn't sit right and you would like a little bit more clarity around it, or just generally maybe if you share what you understand, what you really grasped through your own kind of filtering mechanism, that may help to someone else to hear it. So I'll just grab the mic off Bob and oops, sorry, darling. Sorry.
Pull half a yard of beard out with it.
Yes, I did actually. So, anyone would like to share or ask a question or say something? Oh, yes.
Thanks. Thanks, Bob. That was beautiful as always. I notice whenever I come and I listen to you speak, or when I'm listening on the Zoom calls, I feel like this expansion. It's like this kind of fine energy fills my body, and it's just a beautiful state to be in. But what I also notice is it seems to take a lot of energy to stay in this state. And often on the Zoom calls, like I feel this state starting to appear, and then it's almost like I can't stay awake. Like my body wants to just go to sleep, even though it's such a beautiful space to be in. And I find this in the rest of my life too, when I'm trying to meditate or just trying to find the energy to kind of be present. I'm just wondering where or how do you access this energy or find this energy to stay present, because it seems sometimes like there isn't any energy there.
Tell me, when are you not present?
It seems often.
Seems often, yeah. But the presence is always present, but the thoughts are seemingly obscuring it. Thoughts are covering it. Thoughts are coming up. So, and you're trying to stay, you need to relax and rest. Relax into that presence instead of trying to, because the very trying is the thing that stops it. It's a natural state, presence awareness. So the more and when you feel that idea or feel that sense of wanting to go to sleep or rest, well, just you have a bit of a cat nap and see what comes up in that. When you find that you're out of the way, you'll get the taste of it more and more. So that
it does seem like the resistance of not going to sleep makes me go to sleep more. Yeah. So that was it.
Yeah, I want to just wait a second. I'm just going to add, see, there is a cat behind Julia. Look at this cat, because the whole idea of staying in the natural state is really about letting life move you. If the life moves you to rest a little bit, there might be a resting time. If the life moves you to perhaps question, why are you tired constantly? Then maybe that life will move you to some other answers, like there may be some chemical imbalances, or every state, every moment is a result of the contribution of the infinite amount of factors. So if there is if you are drawn to actually, if there is a worry that maybe that's not natural, maybe there is not enough energy, or maybe there is something wrong with the body, then life will move you to look at it. But it could be also, if you have really profound moments of clarity, then that mechanism, that funny mechanism which ensures the survival of the body, is linked to experiencing pleasure. If it links pleasure with that, it instantaneously begins to desire more of the pleasure. And now suddenly the spiritual search begins a desire, begins a quest for more of the pleasant states. While the natural state is the state in which all the other states come and go. Like the pleasant, peaceful, anxious, angry, tired, energetic, all of them are appearing in that open field of consciousness that you are. And wanting more peace and wanting more pleasure is totally natural, but you are not the wanting. Wanting is just what appears again in that open field of knowing. And of course, the question is totally valid. You know, am I doing anything wrong? Can I do something better? You know, the commitment to realization of the truth coming from the heart says, I want to give it everything, so guide me. So I really, I don't want to stand in the way. That's beautiful. That's love. That's longing for the truth. And it is there, and it is shining, and it is already guiding you, because there is really nothing else that can guide you. That longing and love for the truth and for the clarity, that's all there is. And as Bob said, relax into it. Get the cat nap, like that cat behind Julia. And from the quiet mind, that insights spring.
See, that's the trouble. We think everything is dualistic, so when the good's there and the bad comes along, we want to get rid of the bad. But see, it's two ends of the one stick. left as it is, it's going to move around again, like the sun moves around the cloud. What is it?
The sun.
The earth moves around the sun constantly, like it's daylight here now, it'll be dark later on, then it'll be daylight again. So the thoughts come, the good will be here, then the bad will come. Instead of taking them to be separate and fighting with one against the other, left as it is, the thoughts will change too. Nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Left as it is, it's all absolute, it'll come back to that absolute. Naturally there'll be a bit more or a bit less, that's how it goes on in nature, that's how it's functioning out there, you know, more or less, winter, summer, silence, sound, movement, stillness, but it comes around of itself. Nobody has to go out and grab the earth and make it hurry up and push it around the sun. It happens naturally. And so the spontaneous living goes on here. This body's ageing now, or it's aged. It's getting worse, so.
No.
But since it's been taken less notice of and allowed to happen, I've been given a bonus of many, many years of life.
It's getting worse in some things and better in others.
Yeah.
And also there is that intelligence of life that makes the attention always be attracted and following what is required for the moment. Like when you look at the animals, one of the cats is lying there flat, completely 5 senses wide open, and is just enjoying the being because there is nothing that requires anything else. But there are also moments in a cat's life when they will be following a little bird or mouse, and their attention is laser focused and is attending to the body. They don't imagine any self inside, so they are in the natural state constantly and always and ever. They don't have the idea that there is an ego there, at least according to our neuroscience and our observation. What is natural for them is also natural for us. That there is a time for catnap and rest, and there is a time to have 5 senses wide open, and there is a time for the disappearance of the universe, when attention doesn't really go to any of the senses even then. And there is also a time for laser focus, attending to daily tasks and other things, and expecting that I should stay, because this wasn't your questions, but that question comes up quite often in individual sessions and generally. How do I stay with the emptiness? How do I stay with the presence awareness? And because I can have it for moments, but I want to have it all the time. The truth is, you can't have it, because when it is, the I is not. Mm-hmm. That's the paradox. When there is no mind, it shines through. And when the mind is required to do its calculation, comparison, planning, whatever the mind is required to do, that is naturally obscured by the activity of the mind. But it doesn't mean that it is gone. It doesn't mean that the life has disappeared. It is still always and ever there. It's just that attention has been called to attend to pain or whatever it is. So recognizing that intelligence and relaxing into knowing that intelligence is far, far greater than my desires to be present, or my desire to be with emptiness as if there was 2 of us, me and emptiness. The emptiness shines forth when the me is relaxed into nothing, to what it is really, because the me is a thought, is an imagination. It's nothing but a persistent sort of a self-hypnosis state in which we have practiced all our life, to imagine that there is a driver who has free will and control, and that driver is responsible for achieving enlightenment or for waking up. That's the storyline. But the realization is that there is no one there. So there is no one who needs to achieve anything, and there is no one who needs to awaken. Awakening is from that imagined storyline, when the storyline just, you can see it as a story, and then it just doesn't have any effect anymore. It doesn't sting anymore. even if it comes back. And a little narrative is chatting. You can't ever believe it in it again, that you are anything, that you are unlovable or that you are lovable, that you are ugly or that you are smart or beautiful, because what you are is beyond description. When you realize that there is no unit of you, it's nothing that is separated from the totality that you could call you. It doesn't fit any description. It can't be good enough or not good enough, or nothing can be said about it. And at the same time, it can't be denied, because try not to be. You can't. You are. You are. What you are, that's a different story. Don't tell yourself that story. Don't go there. But you are. And isn't it wonderful just to be without any, even if the desire for more pleasure passed through that sense of being. Yeah, oh wow, desire for more pleasure. What a wonderful manifestation of love, isn't it? If I want more chocolate or more orgasm, that's love, that's self-care, that's beautiful. But following that desire means that I leave the source, that love behind it, and go on the story that I am lacking something, I am deficient, I need to fix myself, complete myself. That's unnecessary. The recognition that behind that original motivation of any movement is love, and staying with that is enough. That love will manifest into a story of lack, but don't go there. Stay with the motivation.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. You want to add something?
What came up a few moments ago before you started talking, of course it's hard to go back to thought, but whatever, was just this, one of my favorite quotes from the Infinite was the Nisargadatta line of "Nothing can trouble you except in your own imagination." I love that, like juicy little nugget in like one sentence. And that imagination, well, outside of this nanosecond, which is fleeting, and even also this is imaginary or whatever, anything I could have a thought about is about what seemingly was or seemingly will be. Like even the word now is over as we say it. So it's just that one little sentence that is just so helpful to see, wait a minute, what's here now? If there's an emotional upset that's being held on to longer than this cat might, or my toddler would, or something like that, because the upset's allowed. I mean, it's I think you've pointed out previously, you know, if I spook this cat, she's going to run, you know, but she'll be over it in a few minutes, won't she? She'll go back to doing whatever she is doing, you know, or the bird you spook the bird, it'll fly off, but then there's no holding on, and I think there's no holding on because there's no imaginary me that's holding on in the toddler and the animals. And it's so, this one little nugget of pointing has facilitated so much more ease in recognizing or recognizing, as you've said, what's here before the concepts, you know, or between them. You know? And yeah. Yeah, just this is, and is it that bad, really? I mean, like, we go into the thoughts about how much this sucks, and, you know, without the thought, if we could just back into, allow that to step, just, and then just stay here. Maybe there's a lot of anxiety or fear or anger, or fine. Something Kat once said to me, I just really found just another juicy nugget. You know, I'm not really free if I'm not free to have all my emotions. Love it. And it's in that resisting of all these emotions that really is mostly happening here, because I shouldn't be this way. I should always be. Yeah. I should always be. the shoulds are gone, you know. You know, and I may just come back to this. Well, let's explore this sensation. Maybe it's anxiety or whatever, and have a curiosity for a moment, as though it was never here before. Just maybe it wasn't, because this is fresh and new. You know, this is not the same anxiety I had. It's maybe layered, okay, seemingly. But once you peel back the layers and you look for a moment and go, right, well, let's just stay with this. I never did that before, maybe. Not the way I did now. Yeah, it's not even that. But I go into that, well, I might call it that because it feels like what I've called that. You know what I mean? I've had a label for that. You know? But if I just stay with this, what's that like? And then I'm back to just this. I'm so grateful. I came here through sort of this path of letting go. And when I first started to learn about it, one of the things they'd said is that you start with whatever's on top. When, you know, and what's always on top occurred to me later on is simply a wanting to let go. That is always, if the thought even comes up to let go, that is what's here on top, is not this. I have to let it go. And when you see the I that can let go and doesn't exist, you know, whew, yeah, that was like, I love, it's a story. I love to, some of my old stories, I bring it up again, was the time when I had a car accident and I was beating myself up, and I'm doing all these processes of I'm welcoming I'm trying to stay with it, the emotional, I'm going to let it go, and I'm trying all these different things I've learned, but really the sledgehammer of letting go is really seeing that the me that can let go, the snake, has always been a rope. And as somebody brought out recently in a meeting, yeah, that rope actually doesn't even exist either. But it's like, but man, when I had like this car accident several years ago, and I was beating myself up, and I just got to bring it up again because I love the story. I get on the phone with Bob, and I'm like, so I thought of your quote, "What's wrong with right now?" Unless you think about it, and he's like, well, problem is I can't stop freaking thinking about it. And he's just, so who's thinking about it? And just a little laugh came up because it's, when it's looked at, oh my God, it's so ridiculously simple. And how grateful I am for everybody here and you. Both of you. Thank you. I love you.
Peter?
Thank you. Is it okay, Lockie, to forget this? To forget the teaching altogether?
Yeah.
To not remember? Yeah. Do you feel like you've fallen out of love with yourself or something like that if you're not right there on the money all the time?
No, I wouldn't say. Not quite.
Yeah. Yeah. Because of course you are in totally loved, and you know this, you cannot forsake your own heritage as that is. It's impossible. When Bob forgot his spiel for a moment, went into this moment of not remembering. Did any of us here think, oh, we don't love him anymore, or don't include him in, or don't think that he's not the perfect self that he is in essence? Of course not, it really has nothing to do with all these blips up and down and around and about. It's all just, just that, and all this is, there is no real outcome here, is there, really? Nothing to try and grasp and get. It's called monkey mind, all that stuff, isn't it? In India, do you know what monkey, they have a close-necked bottle in which the monkey reaches in, grab a banana, and he runs around with this thing behind him because he doesn't want to let go of the banana, right? So, but of course, if he just lets go of the banana, he can slip his arm out. He's no longer entrapped.
Thank you. I just think when I first was turned on to this understanding through Bob many years ago, I think for all of my life until I was in Bob's presence, I thought I had to figure everything out myself. I thought all the answers were in the mind, and through another, fellowship, I used to try and hand things over, and there was me and God, and there was me and all my problems, and there was me trying to find a solution, and there was me and whatever was going on. And then Bob told me that I wasn't that me, and that the memory I had of myself wasn't who I really was, and that there were no answers in the mind, and then the mind tried to get itself around that statement, and it was like a swirling mess of resistance and dis-ease, trying to figure it out, and and so it took a while after habitually being in the mind and trying to figure everything out up until that point, for Bob to say, full stop. There's no answers in the mind. And there's a split, there's a split with me and the other. So there's this little imagined me, and then there's the other person, place or thing. In most of my cases being very in the mind, it was the thing or the other object or the other alleged solution, trying to figure it out, And he kept coming back to full stop. There's no answers in the mind. There's not you and the other. There is just this, right here, right now, eternity. But then I'd listen to Bob, I'd go to the meetings, I'd read the books, I'd do all this, and, then the resistance and the dis-ease would come back, and then the mind's habit was to try and find a solution. And then I saw it. And, wow, I'm just getting cold shivers making that statement. But it's old habits die hard, But you just keep coming back to, who's it happening to? There's no answers in the mind. Where is this me? The me's just a memory, Wow, it's just, it just stops, It stops it. Full stop. Don't try and figure it out. You are this presence awareness.
Thank you. That was really beautiful.
Yeah,
and
pleasure.
yeah, I think the one thing that since coming to these meetings that has really helped me is that just that simple question of every time I find myself thinking of something or just like any little disturbance is asking myself who is feeling this disturbance, and every time it's like this like grin comes across my face as I like see it for that moment, and then more often than not it kind of slips back in some back door, and you kind of get these concentric circles of asking yourself who's noticing that you just saw this. But yeah, it's beautiful. So
and I was with my dear friend Julia the other day, and she said, does it ever stop? And I said, well, it's the mind's nature to keep going. That's its nature, But it's interesting because I've been on this path for a long time. You know, there's a lot of peace, there's a lot of silence, there's a lot of recognising that emptiness, and so there's a lot less chatter. And the truth has eaten away the lie. I've done nothing because there was never a me in the first place. So the truth has eaten away the lie of me being separate, of me being able to figure things out. I never had to do anything. And I used to hear Bob say, it's effortless living, you know, but I'd say I'd have to make an effort. I've got to do this, I've got to do that. And you know, you don't make the choices. What does he mean? Of course I've got to make choices, you know. And then I totally saw there was no me. Choices were made, effort was taken, but I didn't do it. I've never done it, and I'll never do it.
Yeah, beautiful.
Ultimately, we just go through this barrier of, and we just find ourselves in this homogeneous that. Yeah, we just come back to the statement, I am that, in my totality, and no matter what, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. In that moment, it's just like, you know, everything is filled out in this unity. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. And it doesn't matter. We are the love, the one love, and it holds everything.
That's right.
Yeah. And that's happening now, whether we think it or not, we believe it or not, or whether we think that we need to apply these rules and regulations all the time. I've got to bring myself back to here, and you know, all this stuff. But ultimately, that just all drops away, and I am that rules.
That's it.
I got a few comments from people who are with us. And so here, Amarnath says, desire can be traced to desirer, and desire lost its energy. I'm pretty sure, Amarnath, you meant the opposite. The desire can be traced to no desirer, because that's what we're all about here, no self. But I know he knows the truth. It's just a typo, I'm sure. You can find out that desire just floats through the space as desiring happening, but there is no one who actually owns it. No self that desires. Anger, frustration, also Amarnath, are part of creation and life. They do not have energy, and meaning often leads to inquiry, that realization, if used for seeking without seeker. Yeah, the punctuation is a little bit difficult, but I'm sure that's correct. Words and thoughts are notions, but their source is self. Without penetrating into them, they can be used discriminatively and watchfully. Memory without reference point of me and others is self. Thank you, Jane. No answers in the mind. Similarly, no questions, to just drama of questioner and answerer. And Julia, British Julia, says to Amarnath, yes, no thought is conscious. Can you drink the word water? Yes, Julia also says, the truth eats away the lie. Beautiful, Jane. And Amarnath says, yes, Julia, beautiful. Consciousness is hidden, put costume of thought and world, individuals and things. Yes, thank you. Anyone else would you like to say something?
Things are going well.
All is well.
All is well. Nothing's wrong anymore. Yeah.
The thought just came up of know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And And then another thought I'd heard from Course in Miracles lectures, that the only thing to be free from is insane thoughts. Yeah. Maybe might be better stated, free with insane thoughts. Yeah. Okay, because the insane thoughts may come up. It's just less believing, in these thoughts, just seeing the thoughts as comings and goings and not buying into the thought that this is real, this is what I am. I am this thought. Know the truth, and the truth will set you free. The truth. Another quote I loved about the truth is that which never changes. So truth cannot be spoken, because anything in the form of words or even sound, well, that would change, or that can change. This word love, one of my favorite words. Well, I don't know, I think I'd heard somebody say really well how we define things, really. If you come up with synonyms that, maybe the first 5 words that come up for you would be how you would define it. A definition. So for me, that word love, I guess, triggers this idea of love is simply an allowing of something or someone to be as it or they are without not wanting anything to be different or get anything in return. And the only thing that would really I don't know how to say this, match that idea that I just tried to put in a sentence is simply just this empty space that I am, with this emptiness that allows for all vibrations, no matter how they appear, whether they're appearing as a tsunami, or as the Buddha, or as me, or as my dog's poop, or whatever. I don't know. It's allowing of everything. Anyway, I'm just babbling. I'm totally babbling on. But this, the truth can't be spoken, and I think if you're knowing the truth, you're being it. That's all. It's not in thought.
Anyone else want to speak?
So I don't know where to start, but I got maybe start with the desire of pleasure, because I'm always in a debate with myself. I think I'm aware of that. I'm in the debate of myself within that feeling of desire and pleasure, and also what I conscious of a situation. Let's say I'm actually back on that same topic from last week. I met that woman, and in the beginning when we met, it was a state I find of an understanding, so I could find someone who understands me, what I was saying, which was always hard to find. Certain things I see, and then I try to apply that, and I could have conversation with that person. And now it's I get more conscious of that understanding is not so much the case as I thought. So when you spoke about conceptual images, there was an understanding, and I think I had that conceptual image then as well, that was the case, but then I got aware that it wasn't, and the attraction also was easing, I would say, and I spoke to my mother a lot, and could then step a bit more out of that situation. By talking to her, we talk sometimes for 6 hours non-stop, and we talk about that same topic. And then I got aware of the different behaving patterns, because that person I met was actually married and in a relationship. And eventually that partner knew as well, but he wanted us to catch up as well, because he wanted her to be happy, because if she's happy, then everyone in the house will be happy. And so it was a very complex situation, but at the same time he wants to make decisions made, and it always felt to me every decision they have to make is up to me, what I want. And I felt like, actually, hang on a minute, that it's nothing to do with me, because you've been in that situation before that wasn't great. And she was picturing, or she was saying to me, with her and me, it's like a bubble. And she even gave me a present from a volcano, like a bubble. And I sort of mentioned to her that bubble seems to be bursting as the understanding is easing. And then I got more aware of the situation of I'm actually just a bubble. And then I felt like, okay, that's probably how far that relationship went. And so basically, by me understanding that, I can really logically see it and easily talk about it, and there's no, as an observer, observing the situation. And then I have these moments where I feel like I don't have anyone to talk to, because we still talked a lot on the phone as well, sometimes for 5 hours and so on, because different topics. And so there's always that back and forth between, that's actually not the case anymore, but at the same time you have that desire. And when you were saying that as a conceptual image, and you said everything is just moving on in life and changing, I think what happens with me, that I probably wouldn't like to accept it, or there's a hope there will come some more understanding on her part to continue. So I'm always debating between, I understand that, and I'm hanging on to, I want completed. So I'm not sure if that's what I'm understanding right or not, what's happening there, that I can't just move on. So, or I say that's the state I'm in. If you said before that it's okay to be in a state where you're in. Yeah.
Sometimes in dreams, you'll be looking at someone and relating to them, and then all of a sudden they'll just dissolve, or they'll dissolve into another person.
Is this a question?
No. And that was all.
Yes, so you have a lot of clarity around your situation. At least you can describe it. You see your insights. You see how things are moving. You see how the energy is shifting. You see how your perception is shifting. You also see how certain rules are changing for you, because every situation is created by infinite amount of factors, because there is only one. So that whole oneness expresses itself as 10,000 things. You know, the weather, the hormones, the parents, the early conditioning, the childhood, your rules for the relationship, that the person have to have the same sort of philosophy or whatever it is. You can see now all those factors influencing the situation. And you can see how it creates persistent illusion that this is me, this is I have to decide. But how is it me or you? If it depends on completely subconscious set of rules, that I want to talk, I want that person to be on the same page, I want that have desire for pleasure, and 1,000 little things. So you are on the right track to actually be able to spot all those things in consciousness. You see how they are rising, see how how much clarity you have around all those things playing up in your life. Now, if you could actually see how little agency is required to manage these things, like what gave you the insight What gave you the realization that this is how you want the situation to proceed, or this is what you will have to do, or this is what you still need? See how those feelings and those emotions are also arising in the consciousness, and see how you are actually already in a place of curiosity how this is going to unfold. You don't know which way it is going to go. It feels like, oh yeah, the relationship have to end, or it doesn't fulfill all the rules for happiness. It doesn't, unless she will develop the understanding and she will be talking about what I'm talking. Those are the thoughts at this moment. You know that the situation can change dramatically at any point when there is another contributing factor, and it is out of your hands. Like it is out of your hands if we're going to get another ice age tomorrow, or Putin press the button, or anything else happens, or you will have a very, very strong dream at night which will completely change your perspective on how important it is to talk about the non-conceptual awareness. So there is 1,000 little things which makes that situation, even though so many things you already spot on it, it is still completely unknown mystery how life will take us further. So the probably most lucid attitude you could take towards the whole unfolding is to be the space that you are. Be that open field of consciousness that you are. You are the consciousness. Within you as consciousness, that relationship arose. Your responses to it arose. The person's responses to it came up. The contemplation around it. All of it happens within that being knowing, that conscious awareness that you are. So stay with what you are. You are the being knowing. And the details of what is known, what has been known yesterday, something new came today, something yet new may come tomorrow. But you are that field of awareness, that being, that loving to be, that joy of being, in which that incredibly complex situation presents itself, and it will be unfolding in that. So stay curious, stay open, see where it takes you. It may take you to the place that you have not foreseen or expected, place that may be a little bit heavier or a little bit lighter. But life surprises you. If you stay open, the more insights will come through, and it will always surprise you. Like I had a concept that's autobiographical, and so did Bob about 7 years ago. What relationships I would never enter. And someone who would be twice my age was absolutely out of the picture. And what subjects or what requirements for the relationship I had. And I also had that in my first marriage, resentment or perhaps unfulfilled dream that my ex-husband didn't want to sit and meditate, didn't want to explore the spiritual path and talk philosophy. I was missing that. And how wrong. You don't talk about that. You are that. With Bob, we never speak non-duality between each other, because what is there to talk about? It is about living it, being it.
And also what came up for me when you were talking and when Kat was talking was, all that you were talking about is all the surface stuff appearing upon that presence that you are. That's all the surface stuff that happens, that just bobbles along, that we think we have some control over, but we don't. It's just what's happening. But what's it happening upon? That presence that you are. So all that stuff, which is love, which is beautiful, which is that, it's still just on the surface. And so when there's something on the surface, there's got to be something that it's appearing on, and that's the focus. If there is anyone to focus on, but yeah, it's just all the surface stuff. Yeah, that's what came up here.
I heard you use a word earlier. It was the word bubble.
Yes.
And I think that bubble concept, I think a lot of us think of ourselves that way. I mean, a lot of us kind of know we're not these bodies, but we think of ourselves as sort of a bubble, a collection, of memories, and thoughts and ideas and beliefs and stories. Well, going back to memory again, that bubble, a soul. There's another word for that bubble, I just love the Sailor Bob quote where you got it from. I've got 3 souls. The soul in each of my feet and my asshole. So, but when we look back to this idea of the bubble, this bubble soul, it's similar to at least the idea of the vessel, that if you have the water inside the vessel, or like you just take the vessel, or the empty vessel, and you break the vessel, where do you pop the bubble? Then whatever was inside of the bubble fuses with what's outside of the bubble. No bubble, none of that. There's just
that bubble was interesting because that was her concept. And not mine, but I was observing, that is what it's for her. Then the bubble topic seemed to ease, and once the understanding was not there so much anymore, a couple of times, that's where I sort of remembered back, hang on a minute, she was actually, from the start, name it as a bubble, because whatever happens in her life wasn't resolved. And so then I could step back and actually could see the whole situation from the beginning in every aspect of and I was writing this down within 2 hours, and I could see it. Hang on a minute, this and that just came up, and I just, that was that, and I got more clarity for myself. I was writing this all to her, and I got totally clarity of the different behaving patterns of the family, of the kids, of the mother, of me, why this and this happens, why they don't understand each other, and then the bubble come into place, and that could stay a bit longer alive, and so on. So I could see everything, and I was sharing that, but I'm missing that she's understanding even that. So, I mean, she went through emotions as she's telling me back, and I'm sort of still hoping, and she sees what I'm seeing. And for me, I think what I'm holding on was a hope that she can see what I see, and whatever comes out of it, I'll just have to see. But that's not that stage yet. So
We'll never know.
No, that's correct. Yeah.
I have a couple of comments from people who are with us.
Okay.
Sometimes I think I was inspired as a teenager studying Gurdjieff's teachings when he actually demonstrated how people sometimes go to war with each other, even though they are completely on the same page. They have different definitions of the words, and they completely agree on the topic, but they fight and kill each other for it. And there was another one when he said, it was Uspieński, his student, explaining philosophy. Sometimes people think they agree on something because they nod to each other, but in their own experience of the, again, definition of the concepts, they are completely opposite. The truth is that you will never ever know. That will remain mystery. You may dream that that person gets you completely and understands you completely on the conceptual level, but that you will never know for sure. That will be a belief. Although on the level of heart, when you step down from the conceptual explanations, you can totally get the other person as, because the being is one. Who you are, every other form of being is the same at core, is the same in essence. It's just different the moment you start filtering through your personality, your past, your experiences, your values, all of it, and it comes out as words. And it will be received by the other body-mind organism, biocomputer that filters and compares with their past, their experiences, and their values. That's where we never meet. In the land of the imagination, of the concepts, we can dream or imagine that we meet, but we never do. There are people who are having the same political agenda, and they don't really know that they cannot possibly be certain that the other person have the same sort of an agenda or belief. But yeah?
The greatest problem with communication is the belief that it actually took place.
Lovely, lovely. Oh yeah, okay, I'll mention it. I just read because we are at the end of the meeting. I'm going to just read a couple of. Yes, so Julia asked me to remind everyone, especially from America, that there is an additional Zoom meeting Sunday night or Sunday evening for Americans, Monday morning for Aussies. All the details on sailorbob.adamson.com/meetings, and welcome to join. And there are a couple of comments, one from Vivek. That's for you, Julia. Nicely said, Julia. Only thing to be free from is from thoughts. So more buying of thoughts. And Greg says, so many words for nothing, I get confused. Oh, that's beautiful, Greg. Beautiful. That means you don't trust your mind anymore. That's actually, it really is a better state than the state, though, I know it, I understand it, I am right. It's so much more humble, better, and honest to just be confused and stay in that humble state of, yeah, I don't know, because the mind never gets it. So if we manage to confuse you, bravo, we did wonderfully well. Drop to the heart. There is nothing you don't know there. You know that you are. That nobody can take you. Nobody can take it away, no matter how much blah blah on top of it. You know that you are. And thank you, Greg. That was a good confession, one could say. And Tanya says, it doesn't matter what thoughts come up. This intelligence energy doesn't mind. The thoughts can't affect, change, or disturb the being you are. Absolutely beautiful, Tanya. And Amarnath says, prior to thought is isness. Yes. And Vivek says again, oh no, I've read it already, the nice, what Vivek said to Julia. Amarnath says, we have never investigated I. Words cannot be investigated too. And Tanya says, all vibrations, energies, feelings are allowed simply because they appear. Thoughts tell the story that some vibrations are more desirable than others. And some should appear to be clear about what is, but that's just another thought, another lie, not true at all. I really love what Jane said about just full stop. Yes, the answer is not in the mind. That is so true. Why look there when that is seen? But looking there couldn't have been any other way, as all is just happening. Nothing right or wrong with how this unfolds. That's beautiful, Tanya. Beautiful summary. And Amarnath says, thanks, Kat. Origin of desire is from not desirable self. That's an interesting twist. Movement is happening in non-movable. Love to see Maureen here, Amarnath. And thank you, love you all. And Terry, this path ultimately is a solo path. The seeming relationship can come later when indeed it is absolutely seen as seeming. In the meantime, even the dependence on God must go. You are alone as there is only one. Granted, appearing as many, the relationship is a state of being conscious of. Now, take a seeming further step, no longer conscious of, but simply consciousness itself, a singular experience. That is beautifully said, Terry. Thank you. Yes, and Mirella says, thank you all, lovely meeting as always, much love. And JB says, so the mental narrative always happens after reality happening. A sunset is being narrated even after the seeing sunset or after hearing birds singing happening, and this narrator is trying to claim the happening as doer. But if the narrator is always lagging behind reality, or if it is acting like an echo of the instantaneous reality, it cannot be who we are. It is just thought, and if it is thought and narrator is false, there is no personal doer. So then this narrator is what creates all the mental, emotional suffering stories, and it isn't even real. What is prior to the narrator, according to the Nisargadatta paraphrased, he said, what we really are is prior to thought or narrative. That's brilliant, JB, absolutely. And Tanya says, thank you for such sweet and beautiful clarity. So much gratitude and love is overflowing, but it can't be overflowing as all is love. Yes. It has been another wonderful meeting. Love you, Bobcat, and everyone that's from JB. And yes, can't forget, thank you, Jane, and everyone for commenting. And British Julie and Primali, everyone says thank you. So yes, thank you, everyone. And we're gonna go out for lunch.
And thank you, Cass, and thank you both.
And yes, thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Kat. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.